And we're back. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. I'm your host, Jeremiah Fox. We're here with my friend, guest, neighbor, Sam Himmelstein. So, Sam, you're a partner in a law firm. You went to the New York Law School?
Yes.
Where's that at?
Worth and Church.
Oh, okay.
Not NYU. People
Right.
always confuse
Right.
them. Right.
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 And what was that experience like?
You know what they say, the first year they work you to death, the second year they bore you to death. It's some expression like that. The first year they scare you to death, the second year they work you to death, the third year they bore you to death.
Gotcha.
Right. So I actually took law school really seriously because I saw it as if I were going to trade school, like if I were going to be an air conditioner repairman.
And that's one of those occupations you kind of need to go to school for.
Yeah. Oh, you really do.
Like there's a lot of things. Like
Yeah.
a buddy of mine, his kid just started Brooklyn College for economics. And I was like, why are you going to school for economics? Are you interested in business? Then you need to get a job, like work in business. Like they'll pay you to learn. What are you going to do with that economics degree? But law, law, medicine, music.
You really need, it really is a foreign language. You
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And the legal profession wants it that way.
Well, and we were just talking about being a communicator. And I think that was one of the things. You probably were an awesome communicator before, and you went to law school and became a lawyer, and that festered it. Either way, it's really about communicating and translating.
Yeah, I mean, not all law. I mean, some people sit in a cubicle and draft documents their whole life, right? But if you're going to be any kind of a litigator or an advocate, or even if you're going to do closings and stuff, you do have to communicate. Yes.
So what? I mean, I think we know why based off of what you told us about your history, but like what really led you towards tenant law? Because before I met you, like every lawyer that I had ever met or that my image of was like, like I'm not going to hang out with that guy, but you like can hang out with you all day. It's a different vibe. I didn't even realize like a tenant lawyer exists. Like
there aren't that many.
There are good lawyers out there. Yeah. So what pushed you in that direction? I mean,
you're gonna laugh when you hear.
Yeah,
this.
I love a good laugh.
It was kind of an accident.
You saw the basketball tryout sign and it went the wrong way.
It's not that different. So I did take some clinical programs in law school. Where you actually practice and handle cases under supervision. Because I said to myself, if I'm gonna be a lawyer, I don't want to just know the book stuff. I want to actually have the experience. So I took a lot of clinical, and one of them was a housing clinic. And I became the professor, and Jeff Glenn and I are still to this day friends.
Awesome.
And so I get out of law school, and I'll tell you a good law school story. So I did well in law school. I was in like the top 5% of the class. They invited me to join law review. I said, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But then the dean of the students called me into his office after my first year. And the school was trying to build its reputation at the time. And they defined that as, let's get as many people placed in corporate law positions.
Right.
So that's
you want the big name association.
Right. Yeah. So he calls me in and he says, with your grades, I think we can get you a summer internship at, Dewey Ballantine or, one of those firms. And I said, can you get me a job in legal aid or with a labor union or with an immigration firm? He looked at me like I had three heads. Yeah. It was like, don't call us, we'll call you. Never called me back in. Right. That was the end.
Where are you from?
Yeah.
Gravesend?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. So, all right, I get out of law school. I don't have a job. I did have some summer jobs in legal services doing tenant law. But I was gonna take the first, I guess you'd say, progressive law job that I could find. I would have worked for a labor union.
Right.
I would have worked for an immigration firm. I would have worked for the ACLU.
But the interest was always for people. You were always interested in doing stuff for people. It was never like, I want a big corporate job so I can buy a big dope house and do cocaine and play rock and roll.
Or evict people, for example.
Or evict people, right.
No, I wasn't going to do that, right. So sure enough, there was an opening at East Brooklyn Legal Services in East New York. I don't know if you probably know this. They're right at the entrance to the Jackie Robinson Parkway, which was then the Interborough.
Sure.
There was a little bank, I forget the name of it, Jamaica Savings Bank or something.
Right.
Second floor, That was a legal services office.
Well, that's out there.
Yeah, way out there. F train to J Street and then the A all the way back to almost to the end.
Did you ride your bike?
No, never. Those were dangerous neighborhoods back then, right? So, I mean, my constituency was East New York, Brownsville. You know, those were that was my client base. I used to go to tenant meetings at night. I walked into one meeting one night, and there were these kids hanging in the lobby. That's where the meeting was going to be. And I was with another white lawyer who had blonde hair, and they look at us and they go, "Yo, it's Starsky and Hutch."
They thought you were coming to arrest somebody.
They did, yes. So anyway, I interview for this job. And the way they have the interviews in legal services, you like interview with the whole office. It's very democratic, right? And right at the end of the interview, they say, if we offer you the job, would you rather be in the housing unit or the government benefits unit? And I didn't hesitate.
Yeah.
I said, housing. I'll do housing, right? I got hired. And it was an amazing unit. Almost every other lawyer in the unit, there were 5 lawyers. 4 of them became judges, including this guy, Peter Wendt, who was my supervisor. Then he went into private practice in 1981, formed a firm called Lanzner and Wendt. I was their first associate in 1984, and that's what morphed into my firm now.
Okay. And what was that transition like, where you went
from legal services to
or
private?
Just the whole from legal services through being an associate to being a partner?
All right. So, in legal services, you represent poor people.
Right. Is that city agency?
It's federal and it's state and city funded. There's a legal services corporation in Washington that does most of the funding, and then it also has private donations.
Sure.
It was under attack at the time. Reagan wanted to end it. In fact, 5 weeks after I started, we went on strike. Great.
It's right up your alley. You chose this battle.
Yeah.
You did. You were like, this place we're going to have some fun.
Yeah.
We're going to get some fireworks.
It was wonderful.
It's going to be like the 4th of July all over again.
And what was interesting is that we joined the same union that my father was in all his life, which was District 65.
Yeah.
And at that time, he was retired, and he came and marched on the picket line with us.
It's in your DNA, man.
Yeah, right.
So
and my friends just thought it was amazing. Sam and his father are on the picket line together.
So you go from like government agency to branching out on your own, and like my image of lawyers growing up was always kind of sleazy, and like the movies, it'd be like, if you win this big case, we're gonna make you a partner. Yeah. I don't get that your situation was like that. How did it come about to where you became
went from being an associate to a partner? I brought in a ton of business. They had to make me a partner.
Yeah,
because I was paid a salary at the time, but they were also paying me a commission of any business I brought in.
And how did that work? Did you go out and like hustle clients? You were like looking for people to represent, or people were contacting you? A little bit of both?
It was about getting out there. I used to volunteer at Met Council in their clinics. So I would once a month in Park Slope, as a matter of fact, go and counsel people who came in with their legal, with their landlord tenant problems. And
you were doing that for free. You were just
but because I believed in it, but I also saw that it had a business payoff, frankly. Yes.
But that's a lot of people just think about like marketing and like one for one, like I pay you come in, I pay you.
No, nothing like that.
You did it in a very giving fashion.
Yeah.
It was like giving up front and hoping for some reciprocal business.
Yeah. And then I got involved in a couple of really high profile cases. Partly because I made them high profile, but there were cases that I thought.
How did you do that without Facebook?
It was the Park Slope Press at the time, I think, was the newspaper.
Wow.
There was 2 local papers, and there are sometimes cases that you think as a lawyer will benefit from publicity. Often you don't want publicity, but in this case, there was this guy Harold Gilbert. He was 78 years old. Shy little man who lived all by himself in a rent-controlled apartment on Carroll Street. And he had an antique violin that he cherished, wasn't a Stradivarius, but it was the equivalent. And these 2 goon teachers bought his building and asked him to move. And of course he didn't have to. And then they brought what's called an owner use case against him, where they claimed they were going to live in his apartment. And when he fought and he refused to move, the next day his house got broken into and his violin was smashed. And I said to myself, I got to get this in the paper. And it became a huge, huge case. And of course we won. Nobody believed that these guys really wanted to live in his apartment. Right. And then as a result of his case, the legislature changed the law and made it such that that you couldn't evict anyone who was over 62 or disabled from a rent-controlled apartment on that ground. And it was known as the Harold Gilbert Bill.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And so I got involved. I think the way I got my business was by getting, I've always been very involved in the tenant movement, right? So when the tenant organization needs a brief written, we do it. When I go to all their events, we donate to the money.
Right, and this is all just donation, right? Whether it's money or time
yeah.
and labor. You guys are just donating it.
And it has, I don't know that it was conscious that I was saying to myself, well, this is going to pay off and I'm going to get business, right. but it did. And frankly, the other thing is that my partner at the time, Peter Wendt, who later became a judge, Peter was, how do I say this? He was kind of cranky and
he became a judge. I think you have to be cranky to be a judge.
Not a people person, if you will.
Yeah.
And so one day, one of the tenant people who would refer us business said to me, Sam, you know, I refer to your firm and I refer to Peter, and Peter, they come in and Peter yells at them for an hour. He says, you don't yell at them until you at least get them to sign a retainer agreement. So I started getting most of the referrals, and I was bringing in so much business that I was making almost what the partners were making, but not assuming any of the risk because I wasn't an owner, right? So they approached me.
They were like, you got to see it. So too much heat, Sam.
In 1986, they offered me the partnership.
So did you have to invest money at that point?
Oh, yeah, a very small amount. Right. It was more. So our partnership has always been kind of an egalitarian organization. Everybody is compensated equally. It's not the way most law firms are, that it's a function of like how many your billable hours and how much money you bring in and all that stuff. We look at it in a kind of a socialist way that everybody has a certain value.
It's shocking,
isn't it? I'm a socialist from Brooklyn. That everybody has a value, right? Yeah. One person might not put in the hours, but they're good at marketing the firm. And one person does a lot of work with the bar association, and one person specializes in co-op representation. And, you know, so we've always just said, let's just be even. Yeah. Great. So
we're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the current state of things with tenant law, some new legislation, and what else Sam's got up his sleeve. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. We'll be right back.